Live right now to Gaurav Sawant, who's getting you the first-time glimpse of the Israel-Gaza border. What's happening there? Gaurav, it's over to you.
India today right now is right at the front lines of this war against the terror of Islamic the jihad and the Hamas. I'm at a military gun position of the Israeli army. You can see the Israeli army guns behind me, and they're firing, they're booming constantly. They're bombing Gaza right behind me. We are at a very, very forward location. If you can see the guns behind me, I'll show you these images. This is where these guns are now targeting. The Israeli guns are targeting the Hamas bases. There you see these guns are booming. There you see. These guns are going off. These are precision fire munition that is being used. So they have, this is an artillery gun position. They have both their tracked guns and their towed guns. They've been deployed here. If you notice, this is their 6-man crew with the tracked artillery. The moment they get the signal from the artillery OP officer or the artillery observation post officer, so they get the instructions and the guns then change their location and then they fire. I'll once again show you. So this is, they're getting their intelligence. There you see another gun. There. India today has exclusive access to this forward line of the Israeli army, where right now this shelling of the positions is taking place. Of course, since we are right at the front lines, the signal here would be extremely weak. But there you hear another bomb go off. Akshita, where we are right now, this is right where each and every sensitive location, vital asset, vital point of targeted. Their military capability is being degraded in these attacks. Akshita.
Most telling images that you're getting us right now, Gaurav, of these tanks moving into position. This is very, very close to the Gaza border, and it's making it clear, Gaurav, that they're getting set for that on-ground assault as well at Gaza.
Absolutely right. Where I am right now, these fields have been... That's another gun that's gone off. Where I am right now, what you see is the military moving in big numbers. Every vehicle that you hear, fast-moving military convoys. Right behind the convoys are the convoys.
Right behind the convoys are the gun positions. These are the heavy howitzers of the Israeli army. You also have their anti-missile system that's been deployed here. This is a very sensitive location, and we've come here to report on. There you see, there's one more gun there. In quick succession, 2 guns go off, and you can hear that across Gaza as the crow flies is just 4 kilometers from here. But these are of the Hamas that are
logistics bases of Hamas, according to Israeli army, that is being targeted. I'm not sure how clear is the signal that you're getting from here at the front lines where I am. But what we are attempting to show you is 2 things. One, there is troop movement taking place. Tanks and armored personnel carriers are moving forward. And 2, the artillery is ensuring that any pocket of resistance of the Hamas, especially areas from where the Hamas is in a position to launch missiles and rockets into Israeli territory, those areas are completely taken down. I must also tell you at this point of time that Hamas has fired a number of rockets into Sidrot, where we have been since very early this morning. And there has been some losses of life. In fact, now public announcements are being made, not just on radio and television, but also police vehicles going lane to lane, seeking the clearance of that entire area, asking everybody to move out of Sidrot. We are staying put to be able to report from there, to get you that story as we report this movement right behind me, Akshita.
away from Gaza right now, which is why Gaurav was able to get you these first-hand images of the Israeli offensive. It speaks volumes of how Israel is really hitting back at Hamas right now, Gaurav. Are these tanks on standby at the border? Are they moving in as we speak into Gaza, Gaurav?
Akshita, if you can see these images behind me, and if you can hear the helicopters hovering on top.
Yes.
So these guns that are booming, right now, these are 155. These are howitzers. These are cannons that are booming, and they're very, very close to us. You can hear these guns. You can smell the godhead. This actually reminds me of the car.
100 guns had boomed together, pulverizing the locations where the Pakistan army was on Kargil. But here you don't, of course, have 100 guns. I'm at a factory location, so I can count. At least at this location, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This particular gun position has about 10 155 mm howitzers, some track howitzers, some towed howitzers. They also have surface to air missiles. They also have some rockets right here. And if you see the proximity of where we are and where these guns are booming, it will show you that you can see that smoke. We're very close to this location where these guns are now booming, and this is completely pulverizing, completely decimating all the Hamas locations just across. So they have their earth movers also here. New gun positions are being dug out. This is Israel pulverizing, decimating the threat. I also want to show you this image behind me here. Okay, as you see these guns booming behind me here, there's military movement that's also taking place, and that officer who was just taking those troops in front said, do not aim the camera in that direction. So what's happening right here, right now? We are barely, as the crow flies, a couple of kilometers from Gaza. We are on the southernmost tip of southern Israel. And in this southernmost tip of southern Israel, you have the artillery of Israel army, which is systematically, based on observations that they get, targeting the Hamas positions. Now, there is an observation post, both an officer and the drones, unmanned aerial vehicles. They see where the guns are landing. For a moment, I also want to show you, this is troop movement, constant troop movement taking place on this road. Okay, give me a moment. I will get you more on the story in just a moment. We are being asked to move from this area. I'll get you more in a moment.
Sure, Gaurav. We understand, of course, that very, very sensitive location. And that's why before any other channel, this is a world exclusive that you see on your screens here. For the first time, you're seeing what the Israeli offensive actually looks like, the kind of deployment they're ensuring along the Gaza border, where Gaurav is reporting. And I'm sure you could hear in his audio, almost every 2-3 seconds, you can hear a boom. You can hear fighter jets flying in the skies. You can hear choppers, hectic military activity just 4 kilometers from Gaza, where Gaurav Sawant is the first reporter to reach, and he's getting us that live update. The footage that you see on your screens has been shot just a few moments ago by Gaurav, in which you can see the tanks being moved into position. These are the Merkava battle tanks that are being moved into position. Gaurav did tell us that howitzers are also out there. He says he's seen choppers, he's seen fighter jets, surface-to-air missiles, everything being sent right now closer and closer to Gaza. So what's very clear is that very soon Israel is going to go all out, that it isn't just going to be airstrikes and strikes from the sea, but it's going to be a strike from the ground. In that audio that Gaurav has sent to us, you can hear so clearly what's happening. Gaurav Sawant is back with us. Gaurav, keep taking us through what you're seeing around you.
Right now, the India Today reporter, I am right at the front lines, and this is where you have the Israeli army artillery position. You can see those guns one after the other. There, that officer and the team, they're loading that gun there. Behind me, that other gun position, and one after the other, these multiple guns are booming and targeting Hamas targets. This is right at the front lines. We are right now barely a couple of kilometers from the Gaza Strip. In fact, you can see Gaza with the naked eye from where I am standing. These guns have now been, this is a dugout gun position. It's a proper artillery gun position where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guns, which means this is an important position. These 8 guns are now targeting Hamas strongholds. What you have here behind me are guns that are decimating. There you see. These guns that are firing, they're decimating Hamas leadership bases based on inputs that they're getting. Now, in the skies above, you can also see drones that are constantly keeping an eye. Drones that are constantly keeping an eye on every movement and where the shells are landing. In case the shells are not landing exactly where they're meant to land, then a correction is given and then another round is fired. This is systematically punishing the Hamas. This is exactly what the Israeli army is doing right now. And we are at the front lines of this war. Israel's war on radical Islamist terror, Israel's war on Hamas. There has been some criticism of area weapons that are being used because a shell like that is one, like the one that you see right behind me, when this falls, it causes a lot of damage. But as far as Israel is concerned, the officers we've spoken to, they're very clear that they are destroying Hamas strongholds. Their main aim today is to target some of those tunnels where the Hamas uses those tunnels to ferry, transport not just terrorists but also rockets that have been targeting towns like Ashkelon and Sridot, where I am right now. Some of these rockets, Hamas continues even today to have the capability to target these locations. And today there has been some loss of life and property in Sridot, where I was just a short while back, and police and the army are asking people to evacuate very quickly. People are being asked to evacuate because there is an apprehension as this artillery attack, this artillery assault intensifies. As this artillery assault intensifies on Hamas strongholds, there will be some positions from where they will hit back. They will also target the Israeli towns and cities, and Sridot and Ashkelon are 2 places they would target. In Sridot, people are being asked to move to safer locations. Some houses have been damaged, some people have been hurt. Now police are going door to door asking people to move. Buses are going to be requisitioned, cars are being requisitioned, volunteers are being called in to ask people to move out of this area. We were also asked to move out of this area by the army and the police. They said it's not safe to be here because when there is an artillery attack like the one that's taking place, there is what is known as CB or counter bombardment that takes place. Of course, that happens more in the case of an organized army because an organized army then uses its weapon locating radars to strike back. In this case, we do not know if Hamas has those kinds of capabilities, but Hamas does have the capability to strike. That is why you also have their air defense system in place for if more terrorists want to come in from hang gliders, they will be hanged, as one of the officers told me. He said this is our Pearl Harbor moment. America was surprised in Pearl Harbor, then America destroyed the perpetrators of the Pearl Harbor attack. He said this is what has happened to us. We've woken up. We were in deep slumber. We've woken up, but now we will completely decimate the enemy, which is the Hamas, which is what these guns right behind me are doing right now. Akshata.
Gaurav reporting there from the trenches, very, very close to where the artillery has been deployed by the Israeli troops there. And they're firing, and we hear that, Gaurav, every few seconds that you're talking to us, we can hear another big bang, another big boom as the Israeli guns continue to fire at Gaza. Can you explain to us some of, the artillery, the weaponry that Israel is using that you see behind you? Be careful out there, Gaurav.
Yeah, because every time you stand up, you're advised to just sit down. Also be alert of your surroundings, because we may have to move out of this area very quickly in case Hamas rockets try and target this fixed gun position. So Israel has both. It's the gun that's booming right behind me is a tracked 155 howitzer. It's on tracks. It moves on its own. It doesn't have to be towed. It can go very quickly in desert territory because of the tracks, like in tanks. Like Indian Army has its K9 Vajra, again 155 tracked howitzer. You also have towed guns, which have to be towed. And these gun positions are being dug out even as we speak. So you can make out how Israel is not just preparing for this war, but actually going into this war live as we see it in front of our eyes. Like, look, on one side you have these guns that are booming. I want to just move a little ahead to be able to show you that gun position. There you see. There is that bulldozer. That bulldozer is carving out a gun position. You can see that bulldozer is trying to carve out a gun position. And there you see these soldiers right behind me. They've fired. Their shells are all on the ready, and they're ready for the next round of assault. So you have one gun position dug out here with their ammunition ready, the other gun position there. Then there is that earth mover which is carving out the next gun. Each gun is also protected so that in case there's a counter bombardment, these guns are not directly in the line of enemy fire. Of course, Israel is not taking on an organized enemy, like an organized army. So unlike, for example, when India was fighting Pakistan in Kargil, Pakistan had weapon locating radars, and when our 155 howitzers would boom, the Pakistanis would use their weapon locating radars and they would fire back at our gun positions very accurately. Fortunately for the Israeli forces, Hamas does not have that capability. However, there is still an apprehension, and in Israel it's a very real threat that somebody here could be guiding or helping the Hamas, and that is why everyone is looked at very suspiciously, and that is why people like we've been given clearance to come to these front lines because we have a military clearance identity card like this one. This is very essential if you need to come to the front lines. Only if you have this card are you cleared. Your point, which talks about the army here and the foreign ministry here have cleared you to be in the battle zone. So after that, I have come here to this area, and this is right at the front line. So just behind me are also you see these tracked guns. You hear the helicopters. And there are also the unmanned aerial vehicles on top, which are assessing the damage caused across. Once you know the damage caused across, you can then decide how you need to fire the next gun or the gun after that. This is pulverizing the enemy or softening the enemy before the infantry and armored assault. So all indications are it's only a matter of time now that the Israeli army would move into Gaza. You've softened the targets. You've ensured that the enemy will keep his head down as these guns fire. And once this happens, then the tanks I just showed you, the tanks and the armored personnel carriers, they will go into the territory in Gaza, and they will then go, from what I have been told by one of the officers, that they will go and decimate what remains of Hamas. Their people are being told. Leaflets are being dropped across. Announcements are being made even across. clear that area. The Israeli army is only going to decimate Hamas. Israeli army will do nothing to civilians. And right now, this pulverization. So there are two things that could be happening right now with the frequency of this barrage. Okay, so there you see more military vehicles, more military convoys going in front in every which way. So overall you can make out that the effort is to ensure that they are able to completely then decimate the enemy. Also look here, I want to show you helicopters that are keeping an eye on all movement that is taking place. So this is a multi-dimensional offensive. This is a multi-dimensional approach that Israel is adopting. Israel's only aim is to decimate the Hamas, is to ensure that Hamas is no longer a potent and credible threat. So now we're being told to move out of here because it's not safe. Yes, sir. So now we're being told to move out of this place because it's not safe to be here, and the army does not want any civilians in this area. The apprehension is, one, there could be counter bombardment. Two, they're also apprehensive that somebody could be giving information across. One of the officers we were speaking to said there are those who claim to be friends but are not friends. There you see, that's how close the guns are booming here at the southernmost tip of Israel. Akshita, over to you.
Okay, Gaurav, any moment that you, of course, need a bit of time to move from that location, because as you tell us, you're right up there, just kilometers away from Gaza. Let us know, and we'll give you that time to also move from that location. We can hear the guns booming constantly behind you. But Gaurav, as you said, you're essentially a stone's throw away from Gaza. Does it look like that actual invasion of Gaza, or of the tanks rolling into the streets of Gaza, is going to happen today?
Happen anytime. It actually depends on the Israeli forces when they want to do it.
When they want to do it, because they are in a position to do it as and when they want. They've secured the area within. They're very confident of that.
Been called in. Police have come in. Their special forces have come in. So the operations internally are now sorted. Now the operations are now left for the army to destroy the threat across. And you saw those tanks that I was talking to you about. That tanks are also moving forward. Their armored personnel carriers are moving forward. So Israel is extremely confident that they are in a position right now to completely pulverize the Hamas leadership. One, when the leadership is also on the run, and two, they're also facing the pressure. So this artillery bombardment could just be an indication of the times to come. Soften the target, let the armor, the infantry combat vehicles by whatever higher ground they can. And look behind me, if you can see these images, very fast-paced military movement and large amount of military movement that is taking place on
this road that extends. So is
perhaps for forward movement. Every time we move, so they're also told that there are jammers that are being put in place here. So some of my signal may drop, Akshita, occasionally when military movement happens, because Israeli forces also move with a lot of or electronic intelligence equipment, where jammers are also a part of their system, so that the adversary cannot communicate at all, Akshita.
Sure, yeah. We're losing you a bit, Gaurav, but we can essentially hear what's happening around you. Your video signal is gone off for the moment, but Gaurav is right there, just about 4 kilometers away from Gaza. And it's at that strategic point that you've got the Israeli tanks rolling in. These are images that he sent us earlier. You've got, in fact, the artillery placed there, firing from just very, very close to Gaza at the border areas, clearing off the area, so then Operation Iron Swords can be in full effect, which will mean that these tanks that you see on your screens will be rolling through the streets of Gaza, thereby completing Israel's mission to completely decimate Hamas, to completely kill any hideout, any settlement that they do have. In these areas, Gaurav, that you are, which is very, very close to Gaza, you were telling us you can almost see Gaza from where you are. Are those areas also, places where there are locals living? living, or have Gazans all been evacuated from those parts?
Kuwait, we can see buildings, we can also see pulverized buildings, but we cannot see individuals. They have been advised to leave. When I put that question to one of the officers who was leading, of course, not an artillery, regiment, but an armored column. His information was that based on what Israel had told the people in the Gaza Strip, they'd been asked to evacuate. They'd been asked to move back. They were told in no uncertain terms that Israel will decimate Hamas. Now the writing is on the wall. It is up to those people if they want to read that writing on the wall, is what he told me. So their aim is to completely use artillery to pulverize that location. Once that location is pulverized, for armor to move in. That is the preparation. I do not know how quickly will that actually happen. Whether it's already happening or will happen in some hours or some days. There you see more guns, and more guns are also coming in. And apart from tracked artillery, what I can also see behind me are infantry combat vehicles moving into this area. So where we are right now, Akshita, this is one of the most frontline positions, attack positions as far as the Israeli army is concerned. And it's very clear from this point on that the Israeli movement into Gaza to decimate Hamas is not if but when, and that when may also be sooner than later. Maybe later today, maybe it's happening, maybe in the next couple of days it will happen, because they're positioned to do so, as we can see on ground zero.
Making your way to the point that you are in, Gaurav, and I'm sure this location was strategically chosen by Israeli forces to go ahead and target and bombard Gaza in this manner. But very clearly from the location that you're in, what Gaurav is telling us is that the tanks that you see on your screens are very, very soon going to be entering Gaza as well. All steps being taken to ensure that any Hamas hideouts, any terrorists waiting at the Gaza borders for Israeli troops are eliminated first from these strategic locations that have been identified. Gaurav Sawant getting you the world exclusive, first-hand, first view of what the Israeli offensive looks like right here on India Today. Gaurav, I'm going to let you go for the moment so you can move to a safer location and get us more reports of what's happening out there. A seasoned war reporter there, Gaurav, first one out there on the front lines showing you what's really happening in the Israel-Hamas war.